Mark's scout represents to Lumen maybe the first breakthrough in whatever they are doing. It's like, okay, no more internal bullshit. Like, that's how important he is to us. Now let's just call it what it is. We are so close. As soon as he can finish this, we can now move on to our bigger plan.
Welcome back to the Breakroom. Please join us in taking 9 seconds of silence for Irving B. That's right, it's time to discuss episode 5 of Severance season 2, and with you, if anyone at home has a stopwatch, that's just about as long as Milchick's 9 seconds were in episode 5. I'm John Costa, and joining me to answer all of your questions, they're always looking for out-of-season eggnog. It's Gina Ippolito.
I like eggnog. Expensive.
Always receiving complaints for putting too many big words in his breakdowns. It's Erik Voss.
Perchance the conception of my fuck.
We've got Evan in the producer desk taking questions from the live chat that we're going to answer a little bit later in the show. But man, this Severance show continues to hit week after week.
Yeah.
We did get one little, someone in the office called it a nothing burger episode, but we're going to
Was that me? I called it a little bit of a... No, here's the thing. I said, Evan came up and said, so was this episode? And I said, a bit of a nothing burger. But I just, what I mean by that is that there were revelation after major plot movement. And I think this is a little bit of a rest episode. It expands upon mysteries that we already know, but otherwise it's giving your brain a little rest, which I think is necessary. You can't just have a punch after a punch after a punch. You got to go back to the ropes every now and then.
You're absolutely right. Episodes 3 and 4 were pretty wild, at least in the way that they ended as well.
Yeah.
And so this is a little bit of a take a breath.
Yes.
Type of episode.
Not a bad
but
thing.
Still a lot of great stuff to discuss here. We're going to get into what we learned about Lumen in a second. That's what we like to start these episodes with. But first, I thought I'd ask favorite moments from this episode from either of you guys.
This was, there were so many. But his feedback report made me cackle.
The performance review,
yeah,
Milchick?
The performance review. Especially when he says, you put paper clips backwards. I was like,
they had 3 things of equal severity.
Funny.
And the first 2.
Yeah, it's like you use big words, you put paper clips backwards. Also, your whole department's going to shit, and the world is going to die. They're all equally bad. I was just like, oh yeah, this is my jam. I was laughing, and his delivery is so dry, and just the way Milchick is just staring at him, I'm like, yeah, this is injected straight into my eyeballs.
I think both of those scenes with Drummond, who's the new sort of head of security person, were really interesting and revelatory. The thing that I found really interesting about the first scene, when it's him and Helena and Natalie, is he says, we've decided not to tell James about the Ortbo situation. So, who's running the show here? Who's pulling the strings? Maybe it just works like a normal company where some people have some pieces of information and they want to keep those pieces secret because I don't want to lose my job or whatever it is. But I thought that was really kind of strange.
Yeah, and he called him father, and in the closed captioning it was capital F, which we know when you translate that to German what that means for a society if they all worship some patriarch. Yeah, I don't think at first I was like, whoa, is Drummond her sibling? I got that vibe from the first time we saw Drummond earlier in the season. Now I just think there is it's weird that they all call him father. I think we can all track that. But it seems like the board is very powerful if they can force Helena to go back down as Helly, right? I think she doesn't have that much control. There's almost like a bicameral approach. Well, that would refer just to the legislature. I think there is checks and balances within Lumen. You have almost like a religious leader, like a theocrat, in Jane. You have who's like an executive, a CEO, who's really pulling a lot of the strings. Helena, who's kind of the Shiv Roy. And then you have the board, who's almost I would say the cabinet, but I kind of think they're the Senate, They're these kind of weird, creepy, or the Supreme Court maybe even. of like they kind of rule on these things and they're quiet. You know, like with the Supreme Court. They don't allow cameras in the Supreme Court, but you can audio record it. So you hear like, you know, Elena Kagan and Alito go and like asking these questions, but you never see footage of that. And I kind of view that, you know, as similar to how the board operates, and they all kind of check and balance each other.
I do think it's more interesting if she doesn't have as much power as she thinks she does. Like that's always a more interesting character. And I read an interesting, not theory, but observation online that was like, oh, each of these innies sort of has something that's the opposite of their outie that they need. So like on the outside, Irving is terribly lonely. So when his innie makes relationships fairly, you know, like he bonds deeply with other people. Mark is so miserable and so pessimistic on the outside. So when he's his innie, he's like really optimistic about like, we're going to go and we're going to get him. Helly is like fiery and passionate and all the things that her like on the outside Helena is not. And then we have like lazy shit husband who can't make cookies and the hardest worker in the office who keeps getting these things. So I was like, oh, it's an interesting, they all have an aspect that their outie lacks.
That is interesting.
And I think that goes along with like if she has no real respect and power on the outside and it's all just an illusion, whereas like on the inside Irving was ready to kill a woman to get her back.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, very true. I've seen some questions from people in the chat, like Sarah has joined in Santa in Training, asking about the medical team said her tempers will rebalance. What did you guys make of that line when Drummond was talking to Helena after the, you know, clearly this is after she's recovered? Yeah. Do you think that there's like some off science in this world, or is this more of like the religious beliefs going
It reminded me of the humors. Like it reminded me of like, oh, you have bile, you have this, and if they're not in perfect harmony, we need to bleed you. I think there's some. I mean, every great cult has a jade egg in a vagina somewhere.
Sure, it's like Scientology rejecting modern psychology.
Right, yeah.
Like they frame all of mental health and trauma and PTSD through their own kind of coded language. Like if as so long as her tempers are balanced, who cares what else she's going through? So yeah, I think there's like little details like that they like to put in there just to remind us that we're not dealing with like an actual business. It's very much a cult.
Very, very culty. I think this episode, it was nice to get Helly R back. One of the things that the show now has done is ask questions about, okay, which version of Mark are we seeing? We're going to get into all of that stuff in a second, but first let's recap a little bit of the things that we learned about Lumen in this episode. We start with the exports elevator.
Yes.
Who is this man whistling while he works?
Dental equipment, which is the most disturbing. This reminded me of the first time we see in Kill Bill, when we just see like a woman in a nurse's uniform walking and whistling, and you're like, oh, this is a little creepy. And then you see her and you're like, this lady's about to mess everyone up.
Yeah, that's such a cool connection. Yeah, I didn't connect that, but absolutely, I think that's part of it. You know, he's credited in the credits as the Doctor, or at least not even in the credits. He's just listed in the closed caption as Doctor, because I was trying to figure out who this is. I think this might be, because this, you know, the way Apple does credits is sometimes they'll list the character names, sometimes they'll just list actor names and it's not specified who it is, and it drives me crazy that they do that. At least Disney Plus will always tell you who's playing what. This might be Robbie Benson, and you guys will know Robbie Benson as the voice of Beast in Disney's Beauty and the Beast. Both the original 91 movie and then all the direct-to-video releases, all the Kingdom Hearts recordings. And he's an actor in his late 60s. He is a handsome man. But he hasn't been in a lot of like on-screen roles as of late. And I was trying to figure out from his voice, and you can kind of, in the breakdown, you'll see, I do a comparison. But it could be him. He was announced before the season began as playing some part in the series, and we're now like over halfway through, so we don't know who else he would be. And so we have the Doctor. He has dental equipment, and he's whistling the tune of the what's it called? The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Oh God, that's great.
A great.
My roommate is Canadian and was very excited about this.
Yeah.
Wow. Also, not to get too deep in the weeds, but anytime we see dental equipment, in me like where you're like, what are they doing with this? This is dangerous. It evokes like, you know, Nazi torture basically, or like the is it safe Dustin Hoffman be like someone torturing his teeth. Like I'm like, is there some Nazi stuff happening?
I think of Little Shop of Horrors, like
you
need a dentist. You're just torturing them.
Anytime there are creepy songs and dentist equipment, that you know something bad is about to happen.
Obviously, all of that stuff was dental equipment, but we do also know Lumen experiments on people's brains.
Yeah.
I do wonder if there's some weird use of those tools for
truly it could be anything.
Slicing into
they could
someone's
be fixing
head.
the goat's teeth for all we know.
That's true.
You know, if you don't have like a body that's recognizable, you go off of their dental records.
Ooh, yeah.
So maybe reassembling certain corpses, you start with the teeth, and that's how you know who
They
it
have
is.
friends at the morgue.
They do.
We learned that this episode.
Yeah.
And then the that song that we just referenced, the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, it's Gordon Lightfoot's song that kind of memorializes what is, I think, to this day, the worst shipwreck that's happened on the Great Lakes, Lake Superior. So a lot of people up on the Michigan's Upper Peninsula in Canada know all about this, but it was a merchant vessel that went down. 29 men died, and it was horrifying, and it happened pretty recently. It was 1975.
Oh, wow.
So this is just another instance of the Great Lakes area being referenced. Grand Rapids, Michigan being where Mark W. broke his lease. A lot of people pointing out the painting. Keir invites you to drink of his water. Looks like it is in the shape of the Great Lakes around Michigan and the Upper Peninsula.
Cool.
And then they reference how Burt said that they had to cancel a trip to, was it Milwaukee? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like, if you're at this time of year, why in God's name would you make a trip to Milwaukee? I'm sure there's people up in that area
Find
like
that eggnog.
Yeah.
delicious eggnog. Milwaukee would be south of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So if you're up in the UP, you might consider a trip to Milwaukee.
Yeah, a
as
little
getaway.
weekend trip, like for the husbands. Yeah, I could see that.
So I think we might be in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. That's where I think this is. Now, I'm not saying it's part of Michigan. I just think this is like a carved out region that that Keir PE has drawn a new jurisdiction.
Here's a question I have about this guy. Do you think that he will be revealed to be someone that we've heard a reference to or has a connection with personally any of the characters that we've already met? I heard a lot of people thinking that maybe this is Fields. I don't agree with that, but I saw that people talking about that online.
Fields is Burt's partner.
Yeah,
Yep.
I do think sometimes people try to make these connections to be like, well, hey, it must be
Right.
someone we've known before, and I don't think that's the case. I think if they did that with every character, then you're always going to be like, okay, they've mentioned 5 characters. If they show anyone in shadow, it has to be one of these 5. Right. But we saw with like the guy playing Mark's sort of shadow self, he was the man in the hallway. It wasn't someone we had already seen. It wasn't someone that had like huge significance at that time. So sometimes the reveal is more exciting than, oh, it's definitely someone we already know. And I think that's going to be the case. I think this guy is not someone we've seen before.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that. Speaking of reveals that I thought were coming and was going to be very upset if it was the reveal, you mentioned the guy behind Mark S., the shadow. When he is flickering at the very end of the episode between Innie and Outtie and then sees Miss Casey, I thought for a moment before he sees Miss Casey that he was going to be the person behind Mark and it was going to be a weird time loop thing. And I was going to be so upset. Like, that would be fun, but I'm like, this show does not need time travel. It has enough.
Right.
One of our sponsors this week is HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. HelloFresh is a game changer. Particularly after a long day at work, you don't have the energy to do all the shopping and the chopping and the cooking and the cleaning and the da-da-da-da-da-da. HelloFresh makes it easy to find time to eat well with 50 wholesome, hassle-free meals to choose from each week delivered to your door. There's over 100 add-on items you can add to your weekly box, like quick breakfasts, packable snacks, beverages, and more. I just got some of their little fruit smoothies. There's like a little kale and fruits, and they're delicious. Plus, for those nights when you're really in a rush, HelloFresh's new ready-made meals go from the fridge to your fork in just 3 minutes. We've been using HelloFresh for ages now. One of my favorites is the udon stir fry with pulled pork and vegetables. It's quicker, cheaper, tastier than delivery. I just cooked a burger that they sent with like burger and fries and an onion jam. You cook these onions down, you add a little balsamic. It was sweet, it was savory, it was delicious. Get up to 10 free meals and a free high protein item for life at hellofresh.com/breakroom10fm. 1 item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to hellofresh.com/breakroom10fm. Thanks again to HelloFresh, America's ¡1 meal kit, for sponsoring the channel.
Okay, another interesting thing we learned about Lumen, Helena's relationship. I guess we already sort of talked about this. Helena's relationship with her father. We get a little bit of that early in the episode. She agrees or whatever to become Helly again. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like, how long do you think that can last? We heard some interesting stuff from Helly saying that, like, she took over my body and how fucked up that is.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we'll get into more of that in a second here, but I thought that language was really interesting from Helly and how frustrated she was. Obviously, I understand having someone impersonate you would be very frustrating, especially she hasn't maybe learned about what happened between Helena and Mark, but...
right. Well, Berg was saying something interesting today, that a friend of his did the time math and was saying that from her perspective, from Helly's perspective...
Oh, nightmare.
She kissed Mark and then all of a sudden discovered that she was an Egan... and then woke up and was drowning and is now back at work. And at most that took like an hour.
Yeah.
So like, imagine if you wake up one day and it's like you kiss a man and then an hour later he's being the world's biggest dick to you. There's a small child greeting you at your work and you're like, what is she doing here? And no one is taking the time to explain anything to her. And she's like, at this point, she still has no idea how much time passed. She just knows that Helena took over her body from her perspective for a while and lived as her, and now everyone is being a dick to her. Yeah. And also her friend is dead, like Irving is dead. So it's like so much for her to process, and I love that because Mark is being a dick, and I think that's because he's getting bleed over from, like actual like Outtie Mark. And she's just like, stop being such a dick. And it's like, yeah, dude, you got your own crap going on, but she is probably so disoriented at this point.
I did have to go from we're not happy, it's all a lie, and then being drowned and maybe not knowing it was Irving drowning her, I would be like, oh, cool, they've decided to kill me.
Yeah, yes.
They're absolutely going to kill me. I do think Mark's... you bring up a good point about Mark being kind of a dickbag in this episode. And I really struggled with his characterization until he said, basically, like, the reason that I'm not pursuing Miss Casey or Gemma anymore is because Lumen knows exactly what we're doing, and it's because Helena told them. Yeah. And so that was a good justification for me of why he's behaving this way. Now, I would say, like, Mark, stop being such an asshole. I get that you can't trust Helly right now, but like, let's warm up to this or something like that.
That's what I think it is.
But I thought that was a good justification.
I do think that like Outtie Mark is a dick, and like he it's justified because his wife died, his world went to crap, and the only time we see any lightness from him on the outside is when he's interacting with his sister, and I think this is some clear-cut evidence that his personality is merging back to, because Outtie Mark is a dick. Everyone he talks to, and even in the end, like my other favorite scene is at the end when he and Milchick are in the elevator and Milchick is like, did you tell her that you fucked her? Yeah. And then he's like, hey, where's that piece of shit newspaper? And I'm like, oh, these guys are going at it, and I love it.
I want to ask, Mark leaves 6 minutes early, has that conversation with Milchick in the elevator. Was that, how much Outtie Mark do you think that was in that moment, or do you think that was mostly Innie Mark?
I think it's all sort of blurred together now.
Just becoming, because this is the thing that I think is interesting about the show. We had 4 episodes of we're pretty sure that's Helena, not Helly. They answer that question, and now they're giving us episodes where we're like, oh, how much of this is Mark S versus Outtie Mark and all that kind of stuff, which I think is kind of fun.
I mean, I think it's like there's a question at the heart of that, which is like, I mean, maybe having just seen The Substance, I'm like a little bit, but it's like they are one, right? Like they're just different aspects of the same person, sort of. Maybe that's what they're going for, because I think right now, like Mark it's very hard to tell what aspects of his personality are coming from his Innie and what are coming from his Outtie.
Yeah, I think emotions start to creep in first, right? Like it's really hard to keep our emotional center away from things. I just find it so interesting that Mark blames Helly / Helena for this betrayal and not the company. Like he's still so defensive of Lumen and the way they do business. Like remember how he appealed to the board in the first episode? It's like, why are you still trusting the board right now? You know Lumen is like lying to you, but he thinks that there's still some goodness in this company. Like he's still so trusting, but like the moment like this person that he had a relationship might not be the person that he thought. Like he can't find any bigger target other than Helena. He can't see her as like a pawn in all of this.
Yeah, I wonder if it's too much of a reach to suggest that Mark S is also acting this way toward Helly in case she is Helena, and he is speaking well of the board in case Helena needs to take information back. Maybe I don't know if you go that deep when you're writing that show.
I think he's also messed up because he boned a totally different person than he thought.
I mean, that sucks.
Like that. Like truly, it's you know, it's like he thought he was like bonding with one woman, and then it's a totally different woman who was using her for her own like weird, like, let me see what sex with a normie is like, you know, kind of like I'm so lonely, but also it's just like a complex. They're both like. You know, there's no good person here. I think like Mark is also weird and at fault and for even getting this severed procedure in the first place. But yeah, I'm sure he's probably just messed up. Like he's like, oh, all right. And to have his brain sort of healing as all of this is going on, it's got to be supremely messed up.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on one thing about Helena before we continue going through the episode, but do we, a lot of people were asking last week, I'm not sure if we got to it, and this week as well, do we think Helena is pregnant now with Mark's baby? Is that is theory that's been popping up. People said that if she's pregnant, it could be
that other than they had sex.
Yeah,
no, I don't think so.
People watching TV, and every time a teenager has sex, they immediately get pregnant. So years of conditioning us.
Yeah, I think that might be a route that this show wouldn't want to go down.
Yeah,
at the moment.
If you're a 1%er like Helena Egan, if you don't want a baby, you have every resource at your disposal, whether it's all kinds of crazy birth control we don't even know about. You know, like I don't think that's gonna happen.
The only thing that I think, you know, if the show goes in that direction would be because this show is focused on like not necessarily DNA specifically, but you know, all of that kind of stuff. Maybe, but I agree. I think if there was any evidence, we would be talking about it. But I think the only evidence is that they had sex. Speaking of innies versus outies. Okay.
Who's better at sex?
Segue. Who is better at sex? You got to think it's an Outtie, more experience.
Yeah, that's true.
No, but we got this performance review scene for Milchick, and it was a very fun scene. I think is a lot. This show does comedy in a way that is so unique, and so fun. But one of the things that we noticed, and I want to preface this by saying, we don't know if this is a rule that the show has set up, or if it's a rule that we have put on the show because of what we've observed. But typically, they refer to innies as first name, last initial, and outies as first name, last name. And in this scene, Drummond, the head of security, says specifically that they need Mark Scout to finish the Cold Harbor case. In a previous scene very similar to this, they had said they needed Mark S to finish the Cold Harbor account. Are we reading too far into this, or do you think that actually has any meaning?
I just read that as like it underlines the importance of like Mark Scout represents to Lumen maybe the first breakthrough in whatever they are doing. I imagine that they, in addition to Mark S, they have like dozens, if not hundreds, of other people who have their own versions of Cold Harbor across their various locations, and they're trying to find someone who can like break through with whatever this is, who has like a natural type of trauma that they're trying to bottle in some way, that they lost someone important to them that they're trying to resurrect. And then Mark Scout is the only one who they've been able to find that kind of natural trauma. And they're trying to, exploit that. And they're trying to figure out a way, hey, can someone who lost someone important to them actually re-spark their soul in some kind of digital form? So now when they call him Mark Scout, it's like, okay, no more internal bullshit. Like, that's how important he is to us. Now let's just call it what it is. We are so close. As soon as he can finish this, we can now move on to our bigger plan. So I don't think there's anything. I don't think anything's been switched or anything. Now it's just like, okay, we now know, like, he's that important to the company, to the investors.
Interesting to note, while I don't think we'll get all of the answers to the Cold Harbor case this season, it has been renewed for season 3. Cold Harbor is the episode title of the final episode of this season. So I'm hoping that we're not going to get sort of Nothing Burger Cold Harbor stuff pushed to season 3.
I ran a poll asking the Twitch audience if they thought we would see Cold Harbor be completed this season. And most people voted that we would see it, but not see the end result. That the finale would leave us on a cliffhanger of what that completion actually.
So like the first season when you were like, oh my God, it's all happening, but you don't really see it. Yeah.
And I don't have the full quote, but before the season came out, it was either Ben Stiller or Adam Scott said the end of this season was also sort of mind-fucky. Or they said something along the lines of like, you're not going to want to wait for season 3. Which was maybe a little bit of a troll because we had to wait so long between season 1 and season 2. But it seems like season 3 will hopefully come out
faster,
a little bit faster. I don't know.
You better be shooting it now.
Who knows?
Stop doing your podcast and get on the set.
Stop tweeting at people.
Yeah.
One of the
watching Knicks games.
We love it. We love your podcast.
Stop watching Knicks. One of the things that I love a lot about the show is their insertions of sort of like sad corporate stuff. One of those things being the hang in there poster that we saw on this episode, and we've seen in previous episodes. We talked about this last week. We thought that, I think Gina brought this up, we thought Irv saying, hey, hang in there was a reference to the poster. Turns out it was. Behind that poster was this, I don't know if you would call it a map per se, but a drawing of the exports elevator and directions to get there, which if you paused and looked at the directions like we all did, were very funny. It was basically just left, 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 right, left, 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 follow down the hallway, take another left, right, right, right.
It was either like a Dance Dance Revolution, or like, remember the old printed out MapQuest directions where it's like, turn right at this road, turn left at...
Yes. Yeah. I have a lot of anxiety about the fact that he left that behind there.
He left it behind.
Because there's no way he memorized it that quickly.
Agreed.
And I was like, damn, I get that you can't take things out with you, but take it to your desk and memorize it. Because you don't know what's going on in there. I'm just worried someone's going to find it. And he's never going to get back to it.
But my question is this the same room from episode 1 where they were having the Lumen Cares presentation?
Yeah.
I mean, Helena did point out in that, again, Helena pointed this out, so it could have been a lie. There's no cameras in that room.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there ends up that was a Helena lie and there are cameras and someone's seen Dylan do this. But it's possible that he got away with it.
If he, maybe he's thinking it's close to the end of the workday. Like, I'm going to have no reason to come back here right now. Like, I can't hide this in my desk and I can't take it into the elevator with me, because they have the language blocker. So maybe he's thinking like, it hasn't been discovered yet. So this is probably the safest spot. I'm watching later seasons of Survivor, and hiding the immunity idol is a very big deal.
Yeah.
And you have to think creatively. You don't always want to take it
Dylan
with
to just shove it in his pants they do with all of the other immunity
Dylan should make a fake map and hide it in its place. So that
I just want him to memorize it. Just memorize it. That's what I want.
I don't think that it's possible to memorize. I mean, it is possible, of course, but it would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Maybe Innie Dylan has a photographic memory.
Oh.
What if Outtie Dylan didn't have a photographic memory?
Yeah. That's why he can't remember how to make cookies.
Yeah.
You just got to slice them.
Just the directions that Merritt Weaver gave him, I would have been confused.
Whoa.
I thought you just clump it off, ball it up, smush it a little
You
bit.
can
I think that works too, but if you're a dum-dum like Dylan, you just need to be prescriptive. You know
No,
what I mean?
also if they have a picture on top, it's better to slice. If
A
they've got a
Kir sugar
little,
cookie.
yeah.
That's got it. We know we have Kir marshmallows. They probably Kir
Yeah.
sugar cookies.
Speaking of which, the merch at Lumen is incredible. Those like weird mugs with Irv's
Well, they
face on
3D
them.
printed
For
them,
all of
right?
That, why did they have such weird handles? This is maybe
more
not an
stable.
important question to ask. But
I mean, they look like pseudo brass knuckles in a
Yeah,
weird
they
way,
really
right?
do.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
very
it looks
odd.
like they 3D print everyone.
Yeah, they must.
Everything, and yeah.
They have a warehouse somewhere with everyone's.
Yeah.
They had them for
Dead.
Helena Egan's face too, despite her being the CEO of
Yeah.
the company. Like Milchick knows who she is.
I bet they have
and
them
put it
for
at her
all
face,
the
too.
workers at any given time. Just to, I mean, they obviously have a bereavement package, so I bet they're prepared for anything.
Well, and this is interesting because at one point Milchick says, something along the lines of, "We only do these funerals when
Miss Wong said this when Innie dies on the floor.
Right, when Innie dies on the floor." And that, like, I hadn't thought about this because Evan and I were talking before the show. We're gonna get to the Burt and Irv stuff in a second, but like Burt also says he was fired, but his Innie believes that he had a retirement party, and I think that this was the language that I was looking for. It was when Innies go with Kir, or something along those lines, we have a retirement party for them. And to me, that type of language, as someone who grew up in a religion, is like when you go with God, implying death.
Yeah.
And so I think even internally at Lumen, they consider these Innies to be dead. So, the language about like, oh, Irv's dead, I'm like, well, they could activate him at any moment. But I think truly they consider these Innies to be dead.
Well, I think it does speak to what their goal is, which is immortality.
Yeah.
Every religion exists arguably to tackle the question of what happens when we die. And the Scientologists believe in Thetan souls that get reincarnated in new bodies throughout time. And I think their idea at Lumen is like this whole thing that we were talking about, oh, she's not dead, she's just not here, I think is kind of like a Lumen talking point a little bit. Like, Innies and Outies, like, they aren't dead, they just kind of exist in some other kind of purgatory on the outside. We're trying to perfect the soul. And I think that just speaks to what they're trying to do, which is detach the souls from the body, perfect it, purify it, insert it in a new shell.
Interesting. Evan.
I want to focus on the funeral and the bereavement ceremony, so to speak, for a second. Nick Klaus and Bren in the YouTube chat saying the handles are B's for bereavement.
That's
Interesting. Fun little detail.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with B for brass knuckles. Mom and Sons Comics and Collectibles sending a super chat saying, #free Erik Voss, no more Blue Room. LOL.
He's out.
Yeah, he's out.
It's not a room, it's a dungeon.
That's a dungeon.
The dungeon.
Just to be very
His
clear.
Innie lives. This is Eric's
Yeah.
Audi.
Rooms have doors.
So we got
Thank
this
you.
really interesting, banner of saying how many quarters Irving had worked. It equates to about 4 years or 3 years, I believe. Also, for the workshop and YouTube, doing some really interesting math here about the banner. Okay, so that's 12 quarters. A quarter is 3 months. So usually doing the math, that's 36 months. He was a severed employee for 3 years. If you take the entirety of quarters, 882, and do the math, that comes to 220.5 years. Is that how many years Lumen has been running around? If it starts at 1865, are we in 2085? Are we really 60 years in the future?
Did you peek at my breakdown script? Because I did the same exact math. The year 2085. The issue with that is that we know for sure, based off of the statue in the Kir Hall, in the Egan family hall, the mannequin, that James Egan took over the CEO position in 2003. That's an in-universe date of the movie. So if we're in 2085, it would have to mean that James Egan has been ruling the company for 82 years. And maybe that's possible. Maybe they did slow down the aging process. We're in an Avatar universe where they have whale brain serum that they can use to halt the aging process. Jamie Egan does seem like, Biden times 3 a little bit.
But also those mannequins are only there for the innies, right? There's no point where we see it
could
on
be
the
lies
outside.
on the dates. Could be lies.
That's what I'm saying. If it's just for the innies, maybe they're trying to. I don't know why they would lie to the innies about what year it is, but I don't think you can trust anything that is
fair.
just for the innies.
Anything there they can completely control.
Right. Exactly.
Support Eric's point. I think that this might be happening in real life as well, because this week I learned that the actress who plays Miss Huang, Sarah Bach, is 18 years old. What? That is insane. That little 13-year-old girl is 100% 18.
First of all, bravo to the casting directors because it's hard to shoot with kids.
It's great, that you got someone who.
If you have an 18-year-old, even if you have a 17-year-old, you have different shooting schedules. So bravo for finding a young-looking actor who won't get dinged on going overtime.
The Netflix producers of Stranger Things are like, damn, why do we
We
could take it 8 years between seasons. Yeah, that's a good point, Gina. And I think you may be right. I'm just kind of using this. The town of Kier, PE, is so weird. Mm-hmm. The cars, right, are non-specific. They all seem to be early 90s. Yeah. There's a door factory. The technology. I mean, we did see Mark's smartphone. I think for the first time this episode, we saw a light-up phone, but now this looks like a smartphone, and it is not an iPhone. It is not any generation of iPhone. And that means that, Dan Erickson and Ben Stiller had to go to Tim Cook and beg him and say, we know that all the phones on all these shows are iPhones, but just go with us on this.
Oh, yeah.
We don't, and then maybe they're we have this creepy organization called Lumen. So if you want Lumen to be very much like an Apple company, and Tim Cook's maybe we don't. And then it is it is a universe that must be in the late aughts at least. But I don't think we're in the year 2085. And I think they might count quarters differently. Financial quarters might just mean it might not be 3 months. It might be just a different amount of time.
One of our sponsors today is Mando. And if you smell like a sweaty linebacker and would rather smell like a good smelling linebacker, Mando's the brand for you. Okay, Mando's whole body deodorant comes in 3 forms: invisible spray, solid stick, and invisible cream. It is clinically proven 72-hour odor control. So it's perfect for long days at the office, or long days live streaming, frankly. Since using Mando, my stink is on the brink. My funk has been debunked and my stench is quenched. Okay? Mando stops odor before it starts, and it's safe to use on your entire body. Any of the stinky bits, okay? Mando comes in 4 cologne quality scents: Bourbon Leather, Mount Fuji, that one's my favorite, Pro Sport, and Clover Woods. Mount Fuji has a nice crisp kind of citrusy vibe to it. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off the starter pack. Hi-yoo! Use code BREAKROOM at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. We want to shout out our sponsor, Prolon, whose 5-day program gives you the tools to get your health goals back on track after a Super Bowl Sunday of nothing but junk food. They've got a science-backed plan that makes it easy to stay focused and achieve real results. Prolon's fasting-mimicking diet is a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. We did Prolon's January fasting challenge and loved it. Enough so that we're going to do it again this month. The 5-day program includes snacks, soups, and beverages designed to keep your body in a fasting state. No guesswork or planning required. Plus, you get motivation and guidance from longevity and nutrition coaches. After just a few days, you get more energy. I was feeling better, sleeping better. I woke up just feeling better every day. Plus, once I was done with my 5 days of Prolon, I felt less tired after meals. It was really good. The program was researched and developed for decades at USC's Longevity Institute and is backed by leading US medical centers. Prolon helps support healthy blood sugar, enhanced skin appearance, fat loss, and improved energy and focus post-fast. 3 consecutive cycles of Prolon have been shown to reduce your biological age score by an average of 2.5 years and your waist circumference by 1.5 inches. To help you kickstart a health plan that truly works, Prolon is offering the Breakroom listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day nutrition program. Just visit prolonlife.com/breakroom. That's prolonlife.com/breakroom to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. Once again, that's prolonlife.com/breakroom.
What if the key to reintegration is just eating a bunch of apples?
Oh, I would love that.
Then why is Mark sucking down some weird goop that he seems to not?
Yeah. Evan and I had a
what is
long
that?
conversation about this.
Do we want to talk about?
Is it eggnog?
Well, here's the thing. I at first I was like, it looks like I wouldn't put it past them for it to be like some sort of like weird placental fluid. But Evan brought up something that then sparked something in me. Evan.
Oh yeah. So looking at it, it took a second, and when I watched the episode a second time, I was like, oh, maybe that's just cold shark fin soup.
Yes.
Very much the same consistency and kind of the coloring as well.
Yeah, and I know this, like the just because I've known people in my family who've had Alzheimer's and dementia, and they are, one of the things that they have been studying is the effects that sharks can have, these enzymes in sharks, on Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's, because it's been shown to sort of like help heal sort of damaged brains. So Evan saying maybe it's shark fin soup, and me saying, well, they do use sharks in research right now for like sort of healing the brain of Alzheimer's patients. Maybe this is shark fin soup that they've highly concentrated the enzymes and figured out how to sort of heal damaged brains.
And let me tell you, if I was Petey and Ragabi said, hey, you got to drink a bunch of cold shark fin soup, I'd be like, I'm out.
Who's your supplier?
Doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah. I mean, I bet it's some goopy weird concoction, but I do love that like Evan immediately was like, it looks like shark fin soup, and I was like, well, sharks and Alzheimer's, there's a bunch of research.
I mean, we've joked at the beginning of the show about the eggnog stuff, but Evan brought up a good point. Like, why does Ragnabi need eggnog? Or maybe this is one of those things where you just want it.
Yeah, she just wants she's living in a basement. She wants a comfort drink.
She also pulls, I believe that's like a tub of cake frosting, right?
She's got a little sweet tooth.
Oh, when she's the thing she holds up.
Yeah, like the groceries that he gives her, which whatever that grocer was like an Egan grocer. Did you notice that? I think on the bag it said like Egan something, which is fun.
Yeah.
To me, this is where I am in my life. That looks like baby milk that you put in the fridge.
Yeah, I was thinking
not
like
baby
it looks
milk,
like
breast milk.
Yeah, it looks like breast milk and placenta and all this stuff.
Okay, so placenta. I thought placenta is like pink in color.
Well, usually
I'm not looking forward to
Here's the thing: you can dry it out. Some ladies like to eat it on the anniversary.
We talked about the jade egg.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Egg.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, whatever it is, I don't think, we might never find out what it is, but I do love the shark theory.
It's the same fluid that gets knocked over on the table in the new season 2 opening credits. There's a part where like Mars so it's on the table. It's like something that's gonna be addressed again, I would imagine. But I think it's either some eggnog thing, just the sniff. And if it were like shark fin soup, that is like a delicious thing for me.
No, it doesn't taste like anything. It's completely flavorless.
Okay. To me, it gave off a smell. Like he sniffed it, was like, but it wouldn't be something that was like rotten or fetid for him to just.
Sure, it definitely would smell bad cold. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Okay.
There you go.
I don't think eggnog smells good. I like eggnog.
Dan Erickson, come on the show. Tell us if it's your breast milk.
Yeah, we'll blindfold you and give you a taste of everything.
We'll do that thing where you have the straws. And you have to guess each one.
All those things through a straw.
Is it like tasty wheat from the Matrix? You know,
yeah,
there's like white slime stuff.
It could really be anything.
Speaking of tasty, next episode, I hope we're gonna get a little dinner time with Irv, Burt, and Fields, which I know is a real name, but I love how they name people on the show because they're all so offbeat except for Mark. And I guess Helly's kind of a normal name. Seth. Sorry, they're not all weird. This was a fun scene. I think it confirmed to us, we sort of thought maybe Irv was calling Burt in the phone booth in episode 2.
I didn't.
Gina didn't. Gina was right. Confirmed that was not the case in this situation. Confirmed that Irv Outtie and Burt Outtie do not know each other and have no history together.
Burt and Irvy.
Burt and Irvy. And Irving. What did you guys make of this scene? Specifically, I guess I have 2 questions. One is like, what's going to happen between Irv, Burt, and Fields?
Oh, it's going to be one of those egg parties.
We've seen a lot of pineapples in this season. But also, like, okay, that opens the question up again. We got more dialogue of Irv on the phone. Who the hell is he calling? He says he thinks that he got fired because they found out that his innie was up to no good.
I mean, we've never heard anyone talk back. Is it possible that he's calling the same sort of organization that Regabi works with, and he's just giving them like daily updates?
Oh, that's fun. You think Regabi is potentially not working solo?
Oh, I definitely don't think she's working solo.
Oh, interesting.
I also think just like, there was we saw in season 1, we haven't seen them since, but like the faction of like people who
the whole Mind Collective.
Yes, the whole Mind Collective, and I just think like it's there probably are a bunch of resistance groups that are trying to send moles in. I think Irving was one of those moles. I think that they probably recruited him however many quarters ago, and he was like, yeah, I'll go in undercover, and they probably had some theories about here's how you can kind of remember things, and that's why he's better at remembering things than the other innies. So I think it's like one of those. I think he's sort of giving daily reports. I think it's possible there's other workers that are also moles, and that he's just for 4 years been given these daily reports and calling and being like, well, I didn't remember anything today. Well, painted another hallway. Don't know what it means.
I probably went down this rabbit hole too much in the breakdown. Just digging into the title, Trojan's horse. Yeah. And the term is Trojan horse.
Yes.
It's not Trojan's
another reason
horse.
to hate Rickon.
Yeah, he misuses it and makes it a possessive apostrophe thing. So Trojan horse, obviously, a false gift that you hide something inside of to actually do some damage. And in computing, it's like a program that masks itself as something that's helpful, but it's actually malware. A Trojan's horse would, in my interpretation, imply the Trojans being a step ahead of this.
Yes.
And saying like, yes, please, here's a gift that you can give us.
Right.
We would love this. It's like, a parent being like, I would love it if you got me a new foot massager this Christmas. And then like, but they know. It's like trying to double blind them.
Right.
And say like, oh, you think you want to actually hurt us?
Yeah.
So Natalie's kind of doing that with Rickon in the book. Like, originally the book was something that was actually going to hurt him. Lumen gets ahead of it and says, let's actually control the resistance, So I wonder, I have a theory that Regabi is actually working on behalf of Lumen. Because is she actually helping Mark in this process? Why did...
she did kill the shit out of that guy in season 1.
Did she? She clubbed him. We haven't seen a body. We don't know where he is right now. And no one seems to be that worried about that guy.
Yeah.
I just think the stalling, the fact that like all this Cold Harbor didn't really start until after Mark had the override. Like, what was Mark do? What was Mark's task in season 1 at Lumen?
Yeah.
Why did he not have Cold Harbor until season 2 began? After his outie found out that Gemma's still alive? Like, it seems like all this is now starting after he became at risk. So that's why I just don't trust Regabi. And then to the Irving of it all, I think Irving is working for resistance, but I wonder if the person he's talking to is someone who like is pretending to be a resistance person, but is actually like Lumen is well aware of all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it would be in keeping with Mark saying it doesn't matter what we do; they know exactly what's going on. Because they did focus on that, and you're right that like Trojan's horse means a horse belonging to the Trojans, as opposed to a horse you give to the Trojans. Like that horse belongs to Troy. Fuck you, Sparta.
And we should also note, and I didn't stupidly forgot to mention this in the breakdown. Helen of Troy was the reason they were fighting that war.
Yeah. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't put two and two together.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I don't know. There's also a lot of shots of things being wheeled up. You know, the opening shot is the doctor pushing the wheeled cart. The fruit cart is wheeled in there. You know, so there's like a lot of different like Trojan horses that are wheeled into the room as like a false gift.
I think Harry Evans in the YouTube chat as well. Some other people were talking about the focus on ears in this episode as well, like Dylan eating the left ear of the head and things to like see the what is hanging there sign and things like that. So maybe worth if you're going back and rewatching the episode, maybe take a look at that.
I mean, and if you live in Kier, you cannot trust a phone booth.
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine all of those phone booths have been tapped.
Can't spell Kier without ear.
Should we hit some audience questions as we kind of start to wrap up here?
Sure.
Dev in the Water asking, how are we feeling with Milkshake's fits this season?
I love that we're seeing him slowly unravel because he's such a corporate man. Like when we first meet him, he's such a corporate man and he's so put together and he's so attractive and his outfits are perfectly tailored. So I feel like him slowly unraveling, even when he said to like Natalie, like, how did you feel about that artwork? I'd like to talk to you. And she has that Get Out look on her face.
God, she was
again.
Great. She's
and
so
I was
good.
like, this is a dude that is like going home every night and just staring at a wall and being like, what am I doing? What's going on?
Also, Twitch chatter Shri saying the Aegean Sea sounds suspiciously like Egan. Am I saying that right? Is it Aegean Sea in the Trojan War?
Aegean Sea.
Aegean Sea. Okay, but
yeah,
there's Egan in there as well.
So
also,
fun fact that I have to share, a little behind the breakdown of last week. Joshua, our editor, saved my ass because initially I was looking at the letters E, A, G, and N and being like, Aegean, and I went on this whole tear in the breakdown talking about the Aegean Sea and the history of King Aegeus and his son Theseus coming back from Crete with the wrong colored sails, and then the king threw himself thinking his son was dead into the ocean. That's why it's called the Aegean Sea. And then as I was watching it, I'm like, oh no, it's just Egan, and that's
the letters on the computer.
It's just Irv putting together that she's an Egan. And I told Josh, I said, I'm like, just cut that whole section, please, out of the breakdown. And he moved the audio around to make like me say new letters, and make me say or Egan, and then made me sound smarter than I was when I recorded that breakdown. So God bless Josh Hurd.
That's
Truly a secret backbone of this company.
Yeah.
I love Josh so much.
Yeah.
Josiah sending in a $20 super chat. Thank you
Whoa.
so much, Josiah. I don't know if it's been mentioned yet, but Mark in the title sequence is in the same red shirt he is wearing when he is reintegrated and is passed around by Innie and Outtie. Title card might be representation of reintegration. Yeah, a lot of that going on. We're curious to see if that red comes back in other ways, you know?
Yeah, specifically the shot in the intro where he's like pulling the other side of himself out of the temple. And you see wires going into that giant head, and I think those are the same wires of the 5 different brainwaves, right?
Same thing. Another comment in the intro I see on YouTube also saying, did anyone notice the bottles that Mark is drinking had miniatures of people in them when they spill on the table in the opening credits? Ooh.
In the open, I thought like we were supposed to see tiny people in the fridge. Like,
yeah.
What?
Oh, it's just Cracker Jack in Severance.
In that opening credit, I feel like if I had more time, I would revisit that opening credits.
Yeah, there's
every
probably
breakdown
so much
because
in
we
there.
learn new context.
Yeah, there's probably so much in there.
Yeah, re-break down just the opening credits at the end.
Yeah.
What we learned about the opening credits.
Yeah. Drogo on Twitch chat asking, do you think Petey's map will come into play this season? Remember, he put Mind on it at the center. It kind of looked like the maze in Westworld. I mean, I think we mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago. A lot of people have separate informations that if they were to all come together, it would make more sense. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, there's, so far I feel like there's a lot of stuff from season 1 that has not been touched on in season 2, and I don't think it's because the writers forgot about it. I just think like they've discovered new interesting things, like the whole Mind Collective. We have not seen or heard anything about them in this season. And I think Petey's map is sort of one of those things. Like, where is Petey's map? Does Mark still have it? Does Mark's Outtie still have it?
I can't remember. I think he might throw it out or they steal it from him or something. I think it does. I think it does disappear. I'll have to go back and check.
Yeah. Because I think if it disappeared, I think there's a good chance Mark's forgotten about it in all the chaos. But
didn't Mark destroy it?
I think he did. I think back
happened.
when he was still like PD's like BS, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think we will eventually find out much more about the Lumen building, which maybe includes why there was a brain in there.
See Heather McKenzie in the chat saying, I think the guy from the exports hall, the doctor, is PD. His face is deliberately obscured. And Ragabi mentioned Lumen had people in the morgue. I think that's a really, really cool theory. I hope that's the case. It would be
that's
fun to bring
cool.
PD back.
Yeah.
I really like that actor. I don't think I've seen him in other stuff.
The guy he played the safe Republican in Succession.
Yes,
okay.
The bullshit convention. He was the one who Shiv wanted.
Yeah. Also, we could get some flashbacks in here to their earlier days in.
Especially now that the reintegration is starting to take a little bit more on both sides, right?
He Mark at some point remembered PD saying, "Who are you?" while he was on the table. So it's very possible we get a flashback to Mark's first day.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Sarah Hadjadorian was asking, what do you think the obligement session is in relation to balancing Helena's tempers?
Torture.
Yeah, torture, right? It's some type of break room adjacent, wellness center adjacent thing that they do on the outside.
Repeating the mantra kind of thing.
Josiah sending another super chat on YouTube saying also Natalie called the board an it when she gave Milkshake the paintings in episode 3.
Instead of
like a Pennywise type of thing?
Yeah, like a Pennywise.
Or I think to her, she doesn't really know. It's always just kind of like I wonder if like her earpiece, there's nothing.
Yeah,
there's just like
really think
and it just like programs her into saying stuff. Because I think to her, it's just a disembodied governing body. It's some board, some organizational entity that she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason why this is how they communicate. Like I do like Eric's theory that they're just souls that non-corporeal souls.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a big tank with just these floating white orbs, like.
And then that's what Mark's been drinking.
Oh no!
They liquefy those souls. They have like a liquefaction temperature of like 38 degrees.
Yeah. All right, and then I think kind of final question here before we wrap up. Drogo asking, who's worst at their job, Milkshake or Cobell?
Oh,
well, this is what I was going to say earlier, which is I wonder if there's a background experiment that happens to drive every severed floor manager somehow slightly crazy. They were very successful at doing it with both of them.
That was, I mean, I will say like Cobell was more successful for longer, but seems more unhinged. But also, like, how do you? It's impossible to manage. You're basically like managing babies who are becoming more and more self-aware.
Also, Milkshake has entered this role in a much more,
difficult.
All of the employees are trying to start a revolution.
Right.
So I feel for him over Cobell, who probably got the true babies that had first gotten severed and could kind of direct them how she saw fit.
Yeah, I think she had an easier job, and so she kept them calm for longer. I also think she drank the Kool-Aid, whereas, like, he's got a straw and he's pretending to take sips of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
It just depends on what the job is. I think Milkshake has had a harder time being the severed floor manager. Like, it's not his fault. It's like he had to take over after like some kind of crisis. So he's been a post-crisis term leader, whereas Cobell was taking over after a period of relative stability. So
I can't wait to see his outside life, because we got a little bit of the badass on the motorcycle, and then he said to them like, maybe I'll take you guys for a beer, and I'm like, I want to see him in his leather jacket at the bar playing darts and like buying shots for people at the beer and being like, rough day at work? Yeah, you got no idea.
He's like those people who like to watch airplanes go by, and so except he goes to the door factory and just watches all the doors go past. That's what he does after work.
Yeah.
Who are these people just parked outside LAX, just like?
I think
it's
a Wayne's World thing.
If you're ever in Los Angeles and you're like, I want to go to the In-N-Out near LAX, honestly, get a burger, watch the planes go by.
Home.
So good. So good.
Hey, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. That's it for us. Make sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel on YouTube. We just hit 100,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. It's incredible. Yeah, and then we had some great content over the last week. Shout out to Evan, Brandon, Zach, Eric, Gina, all the people Jessica who made that stuff possible. Thank you guys so much. And give us a follow on Twitch where we do videos like this live. Follow Breakroom on Instagram, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads. Instagram, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads.
Oh no, John's having a meltdown. John's reintegrating.
She's alive. Bye.